Circle round for freedom, circle round for peace, for all of us in prison. Circle for release, circle for the planet, circle for each soul, for the children of our children. Keep the circle whole. Circle round for freedom, circle round for peace, for all of us in prison. Circle for release, circle for the planet, circle for each soul, for the children of our children. Keep the circle whole. Circle round for freedom, circle round for peace, for all of us in prison. Circle for release, circle for the planet, circle for each soul, for the children of our children. Keep the circle whole.
Good morning and welcome. I'm so glad to be with you today, and I hope that you'll all sing out as though we're together in the same room. We're gonna look to the people for courage in the hard times coming ahead. We're gonna sing and shout, we're gonna work it on out in the hard times coming ahead. With the people's courage, with the people's courage, with the people's courage, we can make it. We're gonna look to the people for power in the hard times coming ahead. We're gonna sing and shout, we're gonna work it on out in the hard times coming ahead. With the people's power, with the people's power, with the people's power, we can make it. We're gonna look to the people for justice in the hard times coming ahead. We're gonna sing and shout, we're gonna work it on out in the hard times coming ahead. With the people's justice, with the people's justice, with the people's justice, we can make it. We're gonna look to the children for courage in the hard times coming ahead. We're gonna sing and shout, we're gonna work it on out in the hard times coming ahead. With the children's courage, with the children's wisdom, for the children's future, we can make it. I am open and I am willing, for to be hopeless would seem so strange. It dishonors those who go before us. So lift me up to the light of change. There's a hurting in my family. There's a sorrow in my town. There's a panic in the nation. There is wailing the whole world round. May the children see more clearly. May the elders be more wise. May the winds of change caress us, even though it burns our eyes. Give me a mighty oak to hold my confusion. Give me a desert to hold my fears. Give me a sunset to hold my wonder. Give me an ocean to hold my tears. I am open and I am willing, for to be hopeless would seem so strange. It dishonors those who go before us. So lift me up to the light of change.
Good morning and welcome everyone to the White Bear Unitarian Universalist Church. I am Lisa Borg, serving on your board of directors. We are a congregation in the Free Faith tradition, a community of youth, adults, and children dedicated to pluralism in the spiritual search and ethics grounded in action. We're especially happy to welcome members and friends of the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Charleston, West Virginia, joining us this morning. Welcome, friends. Service participants today include Amy Peterson-Derrick, Reverend Sarah Goodman, Reverend Victoria Safford, and Carol Couette, supported by Anna Garris and Aaron Scott. Music today is from Carol Couette and Craig Hansen, the WBUUC Choir directed by Thaxter Cuneo, and Margot Berg. Today, after the service at 11:15, we hope that you will join us for Cyber Social Hour. We'll put the Zoom link and easy instructions in the chat box. Also today, we're holding our annual Backpack Blessing here at Maple Street this afternoon in the parking lot. Stop by in your car for a drive-by greeting from church staff. We'll have ribbons for your backpack, hearts for your windows, and hymnals to take home. Come anytime between 2 and 4 p.m. Info is on Facebook and on the website. Finally, a word about next Sunday, when we'll reimagine a familiar and beloved ritual, the water communion. We invite you to participate in any of these ways. Send us a photo by Tuesday of water that quenches your spirit and replenishes your soul, whether from an outdoor space or from your kitchen sink. Bring water here in a sealed container and leave it on the table by the church front doors before Sunday with a note about its source. And finally, and most importantly, plan to bring a little bowl of water to your worship space next week. Just set it on the table near your chalice and computer, though not close enough to spill. Welcome to our church. Together we grow our souls and serve the world.
Come in. Come into this space which we make holy by our presence. Come in with all your vulnerabilities and strengths, fears and anxieties, loves and hopes. For here you need not hide nor pretend nor be anything other than who you are and who you are called to be. Come into this space where we can heal and be healed, forgive and be forgiven. Come into this space where the ordinary is sanctified, the human is celebrated, the compassionate is expected. Come into this space. Together we make it a holy space. Lisa Sem. we'll light the chalice.
For today's chalice lighting, I'd like to share a poem by John O'Donohue. It comes from his Book of Blessings called To Bless the Space Between Us, a title which seems especially appropriate right now as we continue to meet weekly in virtual community. The poem is called Benacht and is a blessing for the new year, as today marks the threshold of a new church year. Here is Benacht. On the day when the weight deadens on your shoulders and you stumble, may the clay dance to balance you. And when your eyes freeze behind the gray window and the ghost of loss gets into you, may a flock of colors, indigo, red, green, and azure blue, come to awaken in you a meadow of delight. When the canvas frays and the currach of thought and a stain of ocean blackens beneath you, may there come across the waters a path of yellow moonlight to bring you safely home. May the nourishment of the earth be yours. May the clarity of light be yours. May the fluency of the ocean be yours. May the protection of the ancestors be yours. And so may a slow wind work these words of love around you, an invisible cloak to mind your life.
Join me in the opening words. Love is the spirit of this church and service is its law. This is our great covenant to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Join us now in singing our hymn, Gather the Spirit, number 347 in the Singing the Living Tradition.
Gather the Spirit, harvest the power. Our separate fires will kindle one flame. Witness the mystery of this hour. Our trials in this light appear all the same. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then, gather in hope, compassion and strength, gather to celebrate once again. Gather the spirit of heart and mind, seeds for the sowing are laid in store, nurtured in love and conscience refined, with body and spirit united once more. Gather For in hope, compassion, and strength gather to celebrate once again.
Good morning. This morning's story is called A Lamp in Every Corner by Janine Grossmeyer. Many years ago, in the land of Transylvania, in a mountain valley watered by quick rushing streams and shadowed by great forests of beech trees, there was a village of small wooden houses with dark shingled roofs. The people in the village were of the Unitarian religion, and they wanted a church of their very own, a church they thought set on a hillside, looking down upon the village as a parent looks down upon a sleeping child. So all of the people of the village labored long and hard to build themselves a church. The stonemasons hammered sharp chisels to cut great blocks of gray stone, then set the stone into sturdy and stout walls. The glaziers made tiny glass panes and fitted them neatly into windows with leaded lines. The foresters sawed tall beech trees into enormous beams and laid the trusses for the ceiling. Then they covered the roof with close-fitting wooden shingles that wouldn't leak a drop of rain. The carpenters carved wood for the pair of wide opening doors, setting them on strong pegs so that the doors hung straight and square. A bell was brought from a faraway city, then hoisted by ropes with a heave and a hoe to the top of the tall tower. The weavers wove fine cloths for the altar table, cloths embroidered with flowers and edged with lace. The smiths hammered black iron into tall lampstands, hammered thin bronze into shining oil lamps. Finally, when the building of the church was done, the painting of the church could begin. The painters mixed bright colors, royal red and shimmering gold and brilliant blue, and everyone in the village, old and young, came to decorate their church. They painted flowers, they painted trees, they painted designs around the windows and different designs around the doors. At the end of the day, when it was finished, their church was finally done, and all the people stood back to admire it. And then they sang the song of happiness and praise. The village had a church now, a church set on a hillside looking down upon a village as a parent looks down upon a sleeping child. "We will eat now," announced an elder of the village, because everyone was hungry after a long day's work. "And later tonight, we will come back to pray." And so the people of the village went down the hillside to their homes, to their suppers, all except for one little girl named Zora and her father, who stayed behind. They had brought their own bread and cheese for supper. They ate their food slowly, sitting on the grass on the hillside, admiring their new church with its strong stone walls, its tall tower, its magnificent bell. After they had eaten, they went back inside, opening those carved wooden doors to go into the gloriously painted sanctuary inside. "Oh, look, Father," Zora cried, running from picture to picture with her footsteps echoing off the stone walls. "See how pretty the church is." She stopped in the center of the church and twirled slowly around. "See how grand." "Yes, it is," agreed her father, looking around and nodding with pride. "Yes, it is." "But Father," Zora said suddenly, "we have not finished." "What do you mean?" asked her father. "Well, there are tall iron lampstands all along the walls, but there are no lamps. The church will be dark when the people come back." "Ah, no, little one," said her father. "The light of the church comes from its people. You shall see." He rang the bell to call the people to worship, then took his daughter by the hand and led her back outside. They waited on the grassy hillside next to their beautiful church of strong gray stone. The sun had set behind the mountains, and night was coming soon. Yet in the growing darkness, tiny points of light came from many directions and moved steadily up the hill. Each family is entrusted with a lamp, little one, her father explained. Each family lights its own way here. Where is our family's lamp? Your mother is carrying it. She will be here soon. The many lights moved closer together, gathering into one moving stream, all headed the same way, growing larger and brighter all the time. Zora's mother arrived, bearing a burning oil lamp in her hands. The father lifted Zora so she could set their family's lamp high on its tall iron stand. All around the church, other families were doing the same. And soon the church was ablaze with light in every corner, for all the people of the village had gathered to pray and to sing. All through the worship service, Zora watched the lights flicker and glow. She watched her family's lamp most of all. When the service was over, her father lifted her high. She took the bronze lamp from the lampstand. Its curved sides were warm and smooth in her hands, and her mother carried the lamp home with the flame lighting the way. The flame lit their house when they returned back home, and Zora washed her face and got ready for bed by the light of that flame. Mother, Zora began as she climbed into bed and lay down. Yes, little one? Her mother asked, tucking the red wool blanket around Zora's shoulders. Father said the light of the church comes from its people. Yes, but also the people take their light from the church. Over on the table by the fireplace, the shiny bronze lamp was still burning, and we have that light with us every day. Yes, indeed, said her mother, and even when we are not in church, even when the lamp is not lit, we have the light of truth in our minds and the flame of love in our hearts to show us how to be. That light, the light from truth and love, will never go out. Never? Asked Zora. Never, said her mother. And this bronze lamp will last for many, many years. When you are grown, we will give the bronze lamp to you. And when your children are grown, we will give the bronze lamp to them. And all of you will carry it back and forth to church with you. But there is only one lamp, Zora said. So make another and let the light grow. And someday tell your children to make more lamps too. And now, good night, her mother said, and kissed Zora once on this cheek and once on that cheek and once on the forehead. Zora closed her eyes and drifted into dreams while her mother looked down upon her sleeping child. The years passed, Zora grew, and the bronze lamp came into her care. She kept it polished and clean, and when the bell rang out across the valley to call the people to worship, she carried the lamp back and forth to the church on the hillside, the flame always lighting her way. When the time came, she made more lamps and gave them to her children, who made more lamps and gave them to their children, and so it went on through the years, even until today. And always, the light of truth and flame of love that Unitarian Church on the hillside continued to grow and show them and us the way.
Join me in the spirit of meditation. Take a few deep breaths and find a comfortable place for your body. Listen for your connection to the earth and to each other. Today, all that is and all that will be, Spirit of life, connector of all beings, we invite your presence among us, between us, filling up the empty spaces. Today, when so many people and so much of our earth are hurting, we welcome your healing presence. When we've looked back and remembered the dead of 19 years ago, and remembered the unfathomable truth of losing exponentially more lives from COVID-19 in the last 6 months. When we have lost or will soon be saying goodbye to our loved ones, we invite your grieving presence to share in our sorrow. When we look to the earth and find hurricanes, flooding, tornadoes, extreme heat and wildfires, unrelenting, massive, destructive effects of climate change, we invite your transforming presence into our hearts, recognizing the desperate need to do whatever we can to stop things getting worse. When we look into the eyes of our beloveds, our animal companions, our best friends over Zoom, our family members, our partners, ourselves, we invite your adoring presence, amplifying and expanding the love that we feel. Now, in all our separate places, in all our interconnectedness, in all of our joys and sorrows, we invite your presence, and we all name our beloveds aloud or in our hearts, knowing that they, like us, are held in your web of connection and love. Use this silence to speak their names. Amen.
In these times, your financial support for our congregation matters more than ever. Please be generous.
May the blessings of love rest upon you. May peace abide with you. May God's presence illuminate your heart now and forevermore. May the blessings of love rest upon you. May peace abide with you. May God's presence illuminate your heart now and forevermore. May the blessings of love rest upon you. May peace abide with you. May God's presence illuminate your heart now and forevermore.
Our first reading is Homesteading by Joyce Sutphin. Long ago, I settled on this piece of mind, clearing a spot for memory, making a road so that the future could come and go, building a house of possibility. I came across the prairie with only my wagon load of words, fragile stories packed in sawdust. I had to learn how to press a thought like a seed into the ground. I had to learn to speak with a hammer, how to hit the nail straight on. When I took up the reins behind the plow, I felt the land threading through me, stitching me into place. Our second reading is from John O'Donohue. Awaken to the mystery of being here and enter the quiet immensity of your own presence. Have joy and peace in the temple of your senses. Receive encouragement when new frontiers beckon. Respond to the call of your gift and the courage to follow its path. Let the flame of anger free you of all falsity. May warmth of heart keep your presence aflame. May anxiety never linger about you. May your outer dignity mirror an inner dignity of soul. Take time to celebrate the quiet miracles that seek no attention. Be consoled in the secret cemetery of your soul. May you experience each day as a sacred gift around the heart of wonder.
I knew this place, I knew it well, every sound and every smell. And every time I walked, I fell for the first 2 years or so. And out across the grassy yard, I'm a young boy running hard, brown and bruised and battle scarred, lost in a sweet illusion. From my window I can see fingers of an ancient tree, reaching out it calls to me to climb its gnarly branches. But all my climbing days are gone, these tired legs I'm standing on scarcely bear to lay a claim unto the spot I'm standing. And I remember every word of every voice I ever heard, of every frog and every bird. This is where it starts. My brothers laughed, the sighing wind. This is where my life begins. This is where I learned to use my hands and hear my heart. This house is old, but carries on like lyrics from an old-time song. Always changing, but never gone. It can take the seasons. Life passes by, door to door, dust across a wooden floor. Let the rain and thunder roar. We need not know the reasons. As these thoughts come back to me like ships upon a friendly sea, like breezes blowing endlessly, like rivers running deep. The day is done, the lights are low, the wheels of life are turning slow. As these visions turn and go, I lay me down to sleep. I knew this place, I knew it well, every sound and every smell. And every time I walked, I fell for the first 2 years or so. Now the day is gone, the lights are low, the wheels of life are turning slow. And as these visions turn and go, I lay me down to sleep.
When I come into this building now, this house, and especially into this room, I can't help but think of an old children's rhyme. It's one you know. Here is the church. It has no steeple. Open the doors and see all the people. Except, of course, there's nobody here. If I close my eyes, I can see you so clearly, but otherwise, what I see is this. I see a room filled with light and memories, a room of beauty. It's empty. One thing I've learned in these 6 months of doing services like this is that churches are meant to hold congregations. It is made holy by your presence, consecrated by the physical, incarnate presence of noisy, messy, weeping, laughing people, bodies and beliefs bumping into one another, shoulders, stories side by side in all these random and deliberate encounters, all that sparky magic. It's made holy by the trust it takes to cross the threshold, to come inside, come home here, even if you've never been here before. Come in, come out as who you truly are. It's made holy by the presence of your love and your hope and faith and doubt and self-doubt, your singing, which I can still hear echoing here, and your grief and your gladness, tangible, touchable presence. Not by the presence of a few spiders and ladybugs and maybe, I think, a possible mouse in the kitchen. Holy beings all, but they can't bless this house. They're here helping us hold space for you until you can come home. In April, one of the architects who built this place sent a note to ask how we're all doing. A photo of this building sits over his desk, apparently. So I wrote back to him all these months ago. Dear Wynn, moving through these quiet spaces now, I find my relationship with the building deepening. It holds silence softly and invitingly. The light itself is a presence, even more than before, and even on overcast days or at twilight or on Sundays before the sun is over the horizon in the great window. Birds and deer, small animals, neighborhood dogs so proud of slipping their collars or jumping their fence, raccoons and bunnies at night, turtles, they're all coming closer in, even if I'm in the glass alcove in full view. And as ever, it's a haunted house. The presence of the dead has always been a quiet companioning here. I think that's true in every church and temple. But now the living are here too. Their longing and love and laughter, fears and busy agendas, all held safe between the walls, awaiting the day when the people come back. Buildings aren't meant to be vacant, right? This one is patient, settling onto the land, shining rust red against the budding trees and sky. That was almost 6 months ago now that I wrote that. Amy's story is a favorite one about the lanterns and all the many lights people bring, all the many lights you've brought and you'll bring again. On days when yours is dim, you know you can trust that you'll be warmed and guided by the lights that other people shine. That's really what the church is for. But what can that mean now? If we had a steeple bell to call you back, it would not be ringing now, not yet. So how do we bless the house? How do we bless each other? How do we even be a congregation if we can't be together? Years ago, when Ross and Hope and I first came to Minnesota, we spent a week here first in the spring before we moved, me in interviews with committees all day and them driving around trying to find a house for us. And we left and went back to Massachusetts with the job in hand, but no house. And as the time drew close for us to move out here for real that summer, we started to get worried, especially once we sold our house there and announced that we were leaving. One night somebody called us, a member of this congregation, and said that there might be something not quite yet on the market. And they sent us some photos and then a video. And this was all by snail mail, right? So excruciatingly slow. And I don't remember exactly how this all went down, but we put in the VCR thing, whatever videos were back then, and looked at the pictures and called back and said, okay, we'll take it. Sight unseen. And we realized in that moment, and realized even more a few weeks later, when we pulled into the driveway and opened the door and stepped inside that house for the first time, we knew home had traveled with us, inside us, among us, our little tiny family. We knew we wouldn't find it there in this lovely but unfamiliar space. We would place home there, lay it down with our boxes and our furniture and dishes and stories. And then we would open the windows and open the doors and let new stories come and new people be our guests, new people be our people. I'm remembering also something that was said here on the Sunday morning in 2007 when the congregation moved, literally got up and walked across the hall out of the old meeting room, which is now the social hall, into this new space, the sanctuary. Anne Bushnell, who joined the church with her husband Bill in 1966, stood before the people and she said what she'd actually already said years and years before when the congregation moved the first time up the street from the little church on Matamidi Avenue into this ginormous building in 1990. Anne said so firmly and reassuringly, "We don't have to worry. Change is hard. This will feel different, and it will be different, but it will also be the same because we're taking ourselves with us." I wasn't here in 1990, but I remember that morning in 2007 when the congregation rose, the choir singing, and somebody picked up the chalice, still alight, and carried it across the atrium. And you were not seeking a new home, but a place to set home down. There are people coming to church now, to online classes, to church, who've never been inside this building. Some have never seen it. Some have joined as members. They have found a home here, not here, but here with you. And all together, we're learning now what this means, deciding and defining what this can mean in this new time. You decide what welcome means. You who've been here for a while, how are you going to embrace them? You decide together what belonging means and how you're going to find each other and share your stories and lay down the new foundation of your common home, both now and your post-pandemic home. Whether you've been here since 1966 or since August, you're building it together, the house you will return to. Every time you join an online gathering, it gets a little stronger. Joyce Sutphen's poem is called Homesteading. And it reminds me of how people come into churches and new communities of all kinds. We come stamping our feet on the threshold, tentatively knocking, hoping somebody is going to let us in. Long ago, she says, I settled on this peace of mind, clearing a spot for memory, making a road so the future could come and go, building a house of possibility. I came across the prairie with only my wagon load of words, fragile stories packed in sawdust. I had to learn how to press a thought like seed into the ground. So you think back to when you first came to this church, in person or online, how you came with your stories and your hope. I had to learn to speak with a hammer, she says, how to hit the nails straight on. When I took up the reins behind the plow, I felt the land threading through me, stitching me into place. More than anything these days, I think about that sense of belonging that so many of you have said over the years is what matters most, that sense of knowing your place. And I wonder how you are holding it now, nurturing it, cherishing it, remembering it. I wonder what you'll need this year to keep that sense alive. And I hope you'll tell me, call me up, write to me, come by the window here and knock on it. Tell me, tell us what would help you stay connected to your church for the long haul, the long, long haul we're in together. It is so hard. Sometimes it feels impossible to be a people apart, but we can do it. We're doing it. Every week, I hear people say how hard it is on Zoom. Right. Exhausting, cold, two-dimensional, confounding. More often than not, I am the one complaining. And every week, I hear somebody telling us how grateful they are to connect with their out-of-state parents on the screen, or their children, or their children's school. People are telling us every week how strangely on Zoom, they're having deeper conversations at Cyber Social Hour, say, than ever they did in the social hall on Sunday, with its unintentionally closed cliques and clusters of old friends that you can't break into. These virtual spaces even us all out. Doesn't matter if you've ever been inside here. And maybe in this time apart, we're learning how to be better together. Maybe we can learn. When this room was being built, actually when it was being built in our imagination and we were still raising the money for it, I remember the president of the congregation, Katie Lowry, telling the people, we will bless it, bless the house, bless it by the use we put it to. If you close your eyes for a moment and think of the spaces you've known here, either in person or maybe pictures you've seen on the website, think of this space in your mind: the sanctuary, the social hall, the classrooms and kitchens. Think of conversations in the bathrooms and Thaxter in the balcony, Carol at the keyboard, people cooking on a Wednesday night, and a chalice in a classroom and a circle of children who've been here all their lives gathered around it. Meetings of the men's group on a snowy Tuesday afternoon, ordinations, installations, memorials for our beloved dead, so many, and weddings and parties and vigils. And all those nights with Project Home and our sanctuary family, Kati, Miriam, Julio. You have blessed the house by all these uses you put it to, and it has blessed you in return. What I see in my mind is all these uses of a container, a center for learning, growing, risking, working, justice making, truth telling, music, art, the cracking open of hearts and minds and conscience, rituals of healing and forgiveness, lamentation, learning to pray together, learning to live with more integrity and joy. All of these are the little lights you've all taken out now, lanterns carried way beyond the building into your own homes, your workspaces, your neighborhoods, all the real and virtual communities you're part of far from here. It is as if the Corten steel and concrete walls were lowered down like drawbridges, and the roof opened like a skylight. The whole thing opened like a box, and all the light this house was holding in has gone out with you in a good way, shining all over the places you go, your house, your family, your heart. Whatever you came seeking here traveled home with you for safekeeping for a while. And your job is to spread it all over the place and sometime bring it back, someday, burning even brighter. Some years ago, a Quaker mystic edited a lovely book called Some Fruits of Solitude. It's a kind of meditation manual, a gathering of sayings to center the spirits of people pulled in 1,000 directions by all kinds of modern distractions. That Quaker mystic was William Penn, writing in the middle of the 1600s. It seems like we could use a book like that right now, The Fruits of Solitude. Penn wrote, God's Spirit is not tied to places, but may be found anywhere in field or house. We say a measure of divine light is in everyone already. If you confine the dwelling of the holy to a local heaven, you will be ignorant of that which is the greatest joy that can be. The holy dwells in the heart. He's saying you don't need the meeting house, not even the meeting, for your soul to be at home and well companioned. It reminds me of John O'Donohue from the piece that Sarah read to us just now. Awaken to the mystery of being here and enter the quiet immensity of your own presence. Have joy and peace in the temple of your senses. Respond to the call of your gift and the courage to follow its path. May warmth of heart keep your presence aflame. May anxiety never linger about you. May your outer dignity mirror an inner dignity of soul. Be consoled in the secret symmetry of this. William Penn wrote centuries ago in an essay for his kids some guidance for spiritual practice on their own in solitude. And I'm not exactly sure how old they were, and my guess is they had to do a little simultaneous translation to get the gist of their father's mystic mind, which is what children are doing all the time when we talk to them. And you might have to do that also if his theological language is a roadblock to you, but I think you'll get his meaning here. He wrote to his kids, I begin with the beginning of time, the morning. So soon as you wake, retire your mind into a pure silence from all thoughts and ideas of worldly things, and in that frame, wait upon God, to feel God's good presence, to lift up your hearts and commit your whole self into blessed care and protection. Then rise, if you're well, immediately. And then he goes on some more and says, rise if you're well, get dressed, read a bit of scripture, but only read the parts that inspire you, and do your work and be good children all day long. And then he goes on, and as you have intervals from your work in the day, delight to step home within yourselves, I mean. Commune with your own hearts for a time and be still. This will bear you up against all temptations to discouragement and carry you sweetly and evenly through your day's business, supporting you under your disappointments. Keep the inward watch. Keep a clear soul and a light heart, mind and inward sense. I've always loved that. Delight to step home to the wisdom and divine light inside you. That is good advice for children heading into yet another day of distance learning. It's good advice for their teachers, whether online or on-site. It's good advice for their frazzled parents and all of us trying so hard to make something whole out of a fractured time. Delight to step home to the center of your spirit, because that's the core we've been cultivating here together, refining like a precious stone that inner light that we let shine in one another's company. It still burns inside you, and we need you. We all need each other to keep that light strong. I read another piece this week, an essay by a man in prison in San Quentin. He tells what it was like his first night there, when the iron door slammed shut and he knew that for a time, for many years ahead, in fact, his entire home would be no larger than his wingspan. He could touch the two walls with both his hands at once. There came despair, of course. And then after some time, some days, some weeks, he doesn't say, he took a breath and he opened up the little kit of things that the prison gave him, toothpaste, towels and soap and washcloth, detergent for washing, and 2 outdated, torn up magazines. He scrubbed that cell for hours, several days, floor to ceiling, hands and knees, and the bars. He scraped the filth and the stains and the odor from the concrete. He plugged with wads of toilet paper all the cracks where roaches came swarming out at night. He tore pages from the magazines, National Geographics, and with spitballs that were made from more toilet paper and saliva, he plastered the walls with pictures of the ocean in Malaysia, and the rainforest in Brazil, and the desert at sunset, and pictures of animals, pictures of people. He wrote these small tokens of life on the walls, helped me to imagine a life beyond the walls of a prison. His essay is called Sanctuary. And over the years, 13 years when he wrote this, friends from outside sent many more pictures, thousands, and he put them all up on the wall. The one that has made my home in prison, he says, most like a sanctuary, is a very small photograph of the Bodhisattva Buddha. And I always begin my prison day through the practice of meditation, sitting on the cold floor every morning, cushioned by my folded blanket. There, I always welcome the light of the morning, and I realize, as though I were seeing through clouds, that home is genuinely wherever my heart can be found. His name is Jarvis Masters, and the book I found this in is a few years old, so I don't know if he's still there or not. So a prayer this morning. Join me in a spirit of prayer. For the spaces that hold us now, our houses and rooms and apartments, imperfect as they are, and sometimes so lonesome and sometimes so noisy and chaotic, a blessing for the house. Our homes didn't know we were coming back in March. They had no time to get ready for us barging in with our laptops and our school days and our work days and our pajama pants on Zoom, our anxiety and fear. So say a prayer and gratitude for the houses that have made room for us, that hold us through the night. A prayer, and more than a prayer, for those without a safe house. For those with no home at all, so many of our siblings and many more each day as this virus rips through every false promise of our cruel economy and leaves people without a roof. A prayer now, more than a prayer. For people in prison, in jail or detention, in exile, in camps, in hiding. A blessing, a prayer for the millions and millions. We know you're there inside the concrete. And prayers for those who have lost their homes now to hurricane and wildfire, the devastations of climate change, destroying our shared home. Say a prayer, and more than a prayer, for those for whom home is not a safe place, for whom home is a real danger, for those who live lives with abusers and can't find a way out, for those whose true self, whose beautiful body and shining soul are at risk, at high risk at home, our trans and gay siblings, and especially young ones, those who can't leave. A prayer for a window, a door that will open. For those with mental illness, whose depression or anxiety is large in the room. For those for whom it's not safe to stay alone, a prayer for peace within. And people who can help with encouragement and food and love, a text that says, I see you there and I need you to survive. I love you and I believe in you just exactly as you are. A prayer for those caring for loved ones who can't care for themselves in spaces too small, partner, parent, relative, child, and for whom there's no respite now, no help at all as programs close. For those with chemical addictions who find the walls are closing in, may there be peace. May there be safety. May there be respite, hope, and companions, all the slender lifelines that weave a net of love. May you find a window, may you find an open door. A prayer for the spaces where we have found home. Physical spaces, spiritual spaces, buildings, churches, these glowing rectangles that bring us into one another's holy presence, the sacrament of faces and voices, real and imperfect, with all our laundry and dishes and our dogs in the background, for every shelter from the storm that's welcomed ever and said, come in. For this house, lonesome now, but strong, patiently waiting for its people to come back. May we be shelter to each other. May we be hearth and home and hospitality incarnate, shining our bright and friendly light. Amen. The hymn is Prayer for Your House. It's the first one in the gray hymnal, but you'll see the adapted words on your screen.
May nothing evil cross your door, and may ill fortune never pry about your windows. May the roar and rain go by. By faith made strong, the rafters will withstand the battering of the storm. Your home, though all the world grow chill, will keep you warm. Peace shall walk softly through these rooms, touching your lips with holy wine, till every casual corner blooms into a shrine. With laughter drown the raucous shout, and though the sheltering walls are thin, may they be strong to keep hate out and hold love in.
Please say with me the closing words. May peace dwell within our hearts and understanding in our minds. May courage steel our will and love of truth forever guide us.
Victoria, you're muted.
Let's try that again. Friends, thank you for joining us. You can find links to upcoming programs on Facebook and our website. Please join us at 11:15 soon for conversation in Cyber Social Hour, and join us here later today on Maple Street this afternoon, anytime between 2 and 4 for our Black Backpack Blessing in the driveway. Stay connected, everyone. Stay well. Amen.